Yo, so we here. Let me get rid of this banner right quick. Bam. Yeah, so let's do a quick check-in, see who we got in the chat. I think we on multiple platforms. So lately when I've been doing lives, it's been at early morning times, especially for the East Coast, or especially for the West Coast. It'd be extra early because here in Brazil we're 2 hours ahead of the East Coast, so that takes it to another, that gets it extra early. Man, I think that's good right there, but my mic's showing up. Let me back my mic up a little bit. Man, y'all can deal with it, right? Be alright. Yeah, so if you're in the chat, let me know what's good. Hopefully StreamYard don't delay me too much with the chat. It's been doing that recently. But yeah, man, I wanted to talk about, the safety thing that's been going on recently. A lot of news been coming out about travelers, U.S. travelers abroad and getting in trouble overseas, and not to their fault either. It's been, just random acts. Swiss Lee, good afternoon. Let's see if we get somebody else up in here in the comments, and then we just get right onto the topic, which is travelers. Is it more dangerous now in 2023 for international travelers, mainly those coming from Western countries going to South America, Africa, maybe Asia? Actually, I haven't been hearing of too many incidences in Africa. I feel like Africa is always a thing. There's always negative press going on in Africa. And I think by now the people who go to Africa, they're hard travelers. You're not going to scare them with a lot of stuff unless it's a real, like, people. You got people on the ground in Africa and they telling you don't come. That's when you listen and you don't go. But other than that, I think you're always going to find something negative about Africa. But right now we're hearing a lot about Mexico. Colombia seems to always be an issue we hear about. So yeah, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it. Yeah, it is. It is sad. It's sad what happened. And coming from, I think they drove, right? They drove from South Carolina down through Texas and then to Mexico. Brownsville, Texas, I didn't hear about it until I knew somebody from there. And she told me a while ago it was a bad place. I don't know if it's still like that, but she was just saying there's nothing there. And then, the border town right there, it's not a lot of, she was explaining to me like it wasn't a lot of opportunities there. So there was always some riffraff going on there. Good afternoon. But yeah, I heard they went for medical services for a tummy tuck type of thing. Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. But I don't know, to tell you the truth, I don't know much about Brownsville and that town on the Mexican side. I think Brownsville is where they pass through, where they probably have the border check. And then on the Mexican side starts with an M. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's unfortunate. what happened there. I guess we won't really get the full story until I think two of them were retrieved. So hopefully we get the full story from them, and it really would be a benefit, if they could come out with their story and kind of like let everybody know what they did. They're probably going to get critique. The internet and how people are. People are probably going to like, oh, you shouldn't have did this, you shouldn't have did that, da da da. That's going to happen, even though they lost family members or friends. But I think overall, I think a lot of us travelers would appreciate it even more, knowing that they know that's going to happen, that they come out and give us some insight on what actually happened, some details on it. But yeah, it's incidences like that. The brother who lost his life in Santiago, Chile, and I think he was from the DC area, DC, Maryland area, which is home turf for me. And that's, that was unfortunate too. Sounded like he was just in the wrong neighborhood with a camera, which a lot of us travelers do. We all taking pictures. Everything is new to us. It could be graffiti on the wall that's just interesting, and you're taking pictures of it. And, he was shot because of that. And it sounded like they didn't even really have too many words with him. It was just ran up on him. So with that being said, my opinions of dangers in 2023, I tend to think the world has always been a little dangerous. There's always been instances of that. Even in the States, there's places in the States we know right now that are dangerous as war zones. I think we've all known, especially if you're from the inner city, you probably all known people who've gotten shot, stabbed, maybe killed, murdered. So we come from that type of environment. Not to say you want to continue to be in that environment, but I think when we travel, the main thing is stay abreast, even if it's news you don't want to hear. I traveled to some of these places. I traveled to Mexico, had a great time in Mexico, spent a lot of time there. I traveled to Colombia, spent a lot of time there, had great times there. Even still, I still know it's dangerous and anything can happen at any point. And I think to have your mind there is a good place to be. Trying to be attuned with local customs as much as you can. I would say if you're going to a country for the first time and you don't speak the language, make sure you do some due diligence and try to find out a little bit of what's going on. Right now I'm in Brazil. I don't really speak any Portuguese. So I try to, and I'm not traveling with anybody that's with me full time, you know what I mean? I did have a friend who was here. She left. I got another friend that's coming through, and I might have another friend coming through. And I do know people who are from this region of Brazil. So I kind of have that in my back pocket. At the same time, I met two police officers my first day or second day in Florianopolis. Met two female police officers. They were taking pictures, and I actually just asked them to take a picture of me. We started talking, come to find out they were police officers. So I asked them about the area, the city, and even the state of Santa Catarina. And they briefed me that it was, for the most part, they briefed me how like the police system works, how they got two police systems, civil and then the military. But then they also talked about the state in general and how it's mostly pretty safe. She did mention some cities, I think Joltville. It's, I guess, to the north of the state. She said that's their worst one as far as crime. Um, but even still, you still gotta you can't let your guard down completely. Um, but my take on it, 2023, I think the media in general has a way of amplifying certain news and running with it. And you got to ask yourself a couple things. So it's March now, the third month of 2023. You had that happen. I remember last year, wasn't it a black woman got shot in Tulum or somewhere around there in Mexico? She was jet skiing and got caught up in I guess some cartel members was having a shootout, and she got caught up in the middle of it, didn't know, and caught some bullets. But heard about that last year. This year, we're starting off with these two incidences. I don't know if the Santiago, the one in Chile, I don't know if that was the end of 2022 or into 2023. But my point is, I think what we have going on is we have a lot more travelers. We have a lot more travelers, people going out, seeing places because of the situation we had a couple years before where people weren't able to travel as much. Now we have people going out, doing more travel, and newer travelers at the same time. So I think we're probably going to see an uptick in incidences, and not even just crime, but I think, how can I say it? Just incidences of citizens getting in trouble. Maybe they just don't even know some of the things, it kind of goes even, with some of the states that have legalized paraphernalia you can use in California, certain states, but then you try to go to other countries, and somebody who's used to doing that all the time, you go to this other country and you think it's legal, but it's technically not, and you're going to get in trouble like that. So I think we're going to have a lot more incidences of that as well. I heard somebody mention this on another channel, but it's very true. If you're a traveler and you're from the U.S. And you have, you recreationally use drugs, I would say try to give that up while you're traveling. Unless, I don't know, unless it's just 100% legal there and there's no issues. But even still, I don't know. I think that's always a recipe for disaster. If you're seeking to spend your leisure time like that, or if you're into something else, I would say leave the whole drug business alone. And that's my 2 cents on that. But yeah, medical services, I feel like there's some places where certain medical services, I understand they're a lot cheaper, hell of a lot cheaper. And some places have good reputations as well. But I don't know if that area in Mexico is one of them. I think I can see how it's desirable because it's close, especially if you're coming from the East Coast and you don't want to fly, you drive, it's right there, especially if you know people along the way in Louisiana, Texas, whatever. You can make it there, and it's I can see why it's attractive. But I think the bigger cities or people or places that have more reputation for that, I know Tijuana has a lot of medical services, and I think they've been blowing up over the last couple of years with theirs. I know for one, a hotel I used to frequent in Tijuana, I used to never see any Americans there. And then starting in last summer, I went there and I was like, yo, this ain't even my spot no more. I can't come over here no more, man. They got Americans in there with the medical services in the lobby. got their desk, got it full of patients, and it seemed like they were taking really good care of people. Like they would check on them. I mean, from what I know, from what I saw, but they would check on them, come to their room, check on them, see what's going on, take them to the place, bring them back. And I talked to one guy when I had breakfast. His wife was getting a surgery. I forgot which type, but I think they were from Kentucky, someplace. Probably a couple in their late 40s, early 50s. Good old American. Never been to Mexico, don't speak any Spanish. And the husband was telling me, like, yeah, they were treating him pretty good. They were taking care of everything, brought him from the border, all of that. So, and I don't know how much it cost. And he did tell me it was a huge savings. I think he said it was either a third or a fourth of the cost they pay in the States. So that's all I know about it. But yeah, he was pretty happy and with the service they were getting at that time. So I can't speak on later. I didn't get his information, so I don't know if they had complications or not later. But I have seen and noticed a huge boom in the medical industry. And to tell you the truth, Tijuana has been building on that for a long time. I would say I've seen it for 5 years, more than 5 years, 6 years, where I saw a building getting built, and I was like, that's weird. Why are they building this building here, right? Very close to the border, and it's called New City building in Tijuana. And they right away the plan was, all right, we're going to build this building here. It's going to have rooms in it to this level, and all the light surgery offices are going to be on the top level. And I think their building is complete. I think that's what they're doing now. But I was like, dang, huh? Really? It's like, do you expect that many people to be coming in? And like clockwork, I feel like I heard that plan, and then for 3 years, I barely saw anybody going over there. And then pandemic happened. After the pandemic, boom, it's getting flooded. So, yeah, I think their plan is working out as far as that goes. But yeah, back to the subject of traveling in 2023. To tell you the truth, I think for seasoned travelers, people who've, maybe not even seasoned, but people who used to traveling to certain areas, like if you go to Europe a lot or Africa a lot, I don't think anything's changed. I think you're the expert. You know what's going on probably a lot more than most people. Some things have changed in certain areas, obviously due to the pandemic and the lack of business and people maybe being a little bit more desperate, depending on what country, what region of that country you're in. But I feel like some other places are the exact opposite. They're booming now. Like I actually do feel like Mexico is one of the countries that profited the most and is going to profit the most off of the pandemic and most other countries being locked down, where Mexico never really shut down. And because of that, a lot of people got very familiar with Mexico, and it was good on them for doing that, because they're right next to a more prosperous nation. But not only that, it was people coming from Europe, travelers coming from Europe who was spending a year or maxing out their visa in Mexico just not to go back to the situation they were in their country. A lot of Canadians came down as well during the situation they had going on. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to see a lot of. You're going to see a lot of news, media, and stuff like that because we have more people out there. We have more international travelers in 2022, 2023 than we ever did before. I don't know the stats, but it's got to be facts, because we got we got more people on YouTube doing stuff like this. Their numbers are bigger than ever. Their numbers blew up during the pandemic. So that means there's more people watching, more people intrigued about international travel. And yeah, I think certain places, they're saying their passports are backed up in the US because too many people are applying. So that's never happened before in history. But yeah, we just gotta be smarter as we travel. We do have things like YouTube. We have other travelers out there who you can tap into, get information from. Even here, if you're in the stream or you're watching this later and you're like, oh, but I wonder about Brazil or Santa Catarina, how safe is it and all that, and I can give you my experience, a little bit of it. If you watch any of my videos, you'll see what I'm doing out here. So it's and I will say, I've had female friends ask me about certain places around the world, and they see me traveling there, and I say it is different for women. The world is not about equality. Whether you're a man or woman, it's not about equality. If you look a certain way, if you look like an easy target, it is what it is, even if you're not. If you come off looking like that, you look like that. So I think for a lot of women, if you're not, if you don't have things in place, you can be taken advantage of. I did have a friend that was in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and I asked her how it went, and she told me she got robbed at knife point. This happened probably a couple of weeks ago. I think still carnival time. But she said she still loved the city. Now, she's a seasoned traveler, and I think she's gotten robbed before. But she's a real explorer, She goes out there. You guys haven't seen her on my channel or anything before, if you're wondering. It's not my friend I had in the last video, but she's gotten out there before. I think she spent a lot of time in Mexico. I don't know how much time she spent in Brazil, but yeah, she explained that to me, and I tried to get some details from her about how it happened, and she didn't want to go into it. She didn't want to get those feelings coming up again. So, but it's kind of unfortunate, right? Because when things like that happen, you got out safely. I think she had to give up her phone and a necklace. Those things happen. I don't know. I was trying to get the information of like what part of town she was in, what time of day it was, stuff like that. All she told me was 3 dudes. They approached her, pulled out a knife, give me your stuff. So that's all I got. And that was in Sao Paulo. Now, Sao Paulo is a mega city. It's not just a big city. I think it might be one of the 3 largest cities in the world. So whenever you have congestion of people like that, there's going to be crime. Like, guaranteed. Like, that's just one thing you got to know. Whenever there's people on top of people, there's going to be crime. And in a country like Brazil, South American countries where there are guns, and you can look up online, there's parts of Brazil, they have it where there's a lot of armed robberies, and you can tell even by the attitude of the police. If the police are always on point, like even like to the point where they looking at people and checking them, it's aggressive. It's aggressive crimes out there. So it's kind of like a balancing act. It's a reaction to what's going on, right? But then you come to other parts of Brazil, and the police are more chill. They might even see you a foreigner and just like kind of like shadow you a little bit, just to let people know the police are here. That happened to me today actually, which is weird. I was like, yo, I feel like I got an escort. But also another thing that happened, I was filming something tonight. I'm still in Brazil, and I was filming something tonight, and I was actually talking with a family off to the side earlier. It was a moon rising, so I was asking if they know what time the moon is rising. So we started chatting a little bit. My broken Portuguese, which is, and their broken English, which is a lot more than my Portuguese. But we started chatting a little bit, and then then I was like, all right, the moon's supposed to rise in about 10 minutes. Let me get over here and set up. So I'm over there filming, getting a time lapse, which is dope, by the way. I don't know. I think I'm going to share it on Instagram and maybe try to throw it in a YouTube video later. But he came up to me later. It's like, hey, this area is not the best area. You might want to look around. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I appreciate it. But little did he know, like I've, and that's not to excuse any of his information that he's giving me. I'm still taking it on board. But the other thing was, I had actually walked around the area during the day and at night before. So I kind of know where the riffraff are and what they look like. But what's surprising is the same area, even at night, is pretty well lit. And there's a lot of people who are out jogging, exercising, and not just that, they're with their families. Like, they got a playground out there at night, and it don't matter what night of the week it is, as long as it's not raining, you'll see families out there with 2-year-olds to 8-year-olds, until 10 o'clock at night. And I think around 10 or whatever time it is, the police come around and kind of like coach people out of the area. But it's real interesting to see. It's cool. It's a skate park over there. They got a volleyball. So what's different about, I guess most of Brazil beaches would have that, right? This is technically not a beach area, but there's some water nearby. But they actually have a pretty big skate park. And that skate park is, I would say it stays probably half lit, but it doesn't seem like anything goes, like it's full of families. Like there are kids skating, and mom, dad, all of them are just over there watching, sitting down on a bench. So it's set up pretty nice. I'm not going to say nothing can happen there, but I think if something happened, it'd be exposed pretty quickly. So I was taking that into account as well. But then also the fact that, I had talked with them before, and now they're behind me, and yeah, I'm facing that way. And they came up to me and told me about that. But they know who I am. They know what I'm doing. And if anybody comes up on me, they got my back. You see what I'm saying? So I've already, in that situation, worked with some locals, so to speak, to make sure I'm good to a degree. Now, it's not 100%. Things can still happen. I get it. But these are just some ways of thinking to help out a little bit, if you're out there doing your thing. Yeah, traveling has been, always going to be more dangerous than probably just staying in a soft little bubble area is safe. Although, like I said, we all know there's areas in the United States that are the furthest thing from safe, even if they're close to home, even if people there, they're just not safe because of maybe the mentality of certain people, the attitudes of certain people. So that's something to be very aware of as well. But What other questions? We got any questions in the chat? We got people in here, at least 6 people in here. Want to see if y'all maybe got something we can discuss. If not, then this will just be a quick live. It's just something I kind of wanted to get off my chest because we've been hearing a lot of negative press recently, and we want to be aware. We don't want to try to block out anything that's actually going on, but we got to put it in perspective as well. I would say the amount of travelers that's going overseas now, we gotta things are going to happen. There's always going to be a small percentage of things that happen. It can happen to me, can happen to you, can happen to anybody these things are, but what we want to do is mitigate it and lower our chances of those type of things happening. And a lot of that just boils down to researching areas, connecting with people that's maybe there. I would say, the one thing about the Mexico incident I wonder about is if any of them had ever been there before. And if not, did they chat with the people, the medical services, did they offer the service to help them across the border? I'm wondering. Who knows? The whole medical service could have been a sham. I don't know. But like I said, I know ones in other parts of Mexico are so legit. They get you on the U.S. side and bring you across. So, yeah, I wonder about all that. I'd like to hear their take on it. But I guess all we can do is speculate for now. But we do need to. One thing is we do need to be critical thinkers. If you're a traveler, you do need to have a level of critical thinking. If you don't know what that is, if you don't know what critical thinking is, you need to take a few days, look it up, look at what it entails and how you can become a critical thinker. It means you don't take anything wholeheartedly. You hear some information from the news, you think about it. Like, oh, well, I wonder about this. And when you figure out some holes in their story, you do your research and try to fill those holes if you can. That's basically my take on critical thinking. You just never, I think in America right now, we love taking easy information, fast food information. Like, oh, this happened, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Guess I can't go there. Oh, this happened. Oh, I guess I gotta do that. That's not how people should be. That's not real life. That's almost like a form of slavery. What's up? All right. Yeah, I use the Sony, man. I like using Sony cameras. They I feel like the Sony ecosystem in general is just pretty good, and they're pushing forward on a lot of stuff. And I feel like once you get into them, it's you can grow with them. So I'm dealing with a mid-tier camera system here, but at a certain point down the line, maybe some years later, who knows, maybe at one point I might step up to their flagship. If the YouTube comes in, if the money act right. Yes, exactly. Swiss Lee. That's it. Critical thinking. Don't take anything at face value. Think beyond the obvious. Read between the lines. That is a fact. Critical thinking. I feel like certain communities, certain groups of people, especially the Black community in the United States, there's not a lot of critical thinking. We are more group thinkers in general. Oh, this ain't cool. This is what we do. That ain't critical thinking. That's, if you really think about that, that's easy program thinking. Somebody could come up with a business model like, hey, and get a few influential people to make you all think the same. Make us all think the same. And that's happened before. And it's probably still, I guarantee it's still happening right now. But that's not an adult. That's not using your adult brain. You see what I'm saying? Just like, I mentioned right now about, I like using Sony cameras for, whatever reason. Now, if you just, oh yeah, Tate's image looks crisp and blah, blah, I'm going to just go ahead and get a Sony. Which one? Which lens? What frame rate? All this stuff. This is, if you get into the camera game, that's just an example, a metaphor for how critical thinking works. Is it the camera or is it just the lighting? Can you get a certain size camera and it's just as good for what you're doing? Or if you're doing vlogs walking around the city, is a GoPro good enough? Most people starting out on YouTube, GoPro's good enough. iPhone quality good enough. But that's just an example of thinking critically, getting beyond what's just being told to you. And here's my thing about it. Whenever you see something on the news, on the TV, whatever, like I see any of those news media channels, even the business ones, right? When you talk about stuff, and I would say, they have a different angle. Sometimes they're more legit on certain things. But think about it. You see this person every day, right? That means they got to get up, especially if you see them at 7 a.m. That means they probably there by 5 a.m. So they, every day, every weekday, they're there at 5 a.m. They do their thing till 4 p.m. probably. Think about that life, right? You think they got time to research all these subjects themselves that they're speaking to you? No, somebody comes with the script, bam, lays it on them, hit the script. Well, who was that? You don't even know who that is. You have no idea who gave them the script. That's a form of critical thinking too. It's just, I've realized that about the news over 10 years ago, that their job is to get on there and sound intelligent. All they are is just a conduit for whatever's being written down by somebody or a team of people, and it's just coming through that person's mouth and face. But that person you're looking at is not, they don't have their own thoughts on what's going on. Very few of them do. And if they do, most of the time they have a different type of show. Most of them are, I would say the critical thinkers for media or online. They're all online based. YouTube, Rumble, all of that. So it's, but even still, you still have to do your own due process and think about it. And I think a lot of people don't want to do it because it's more work. It requires more brain power. A lot of people just want to go in automatic mode. They've been working all day. They just want to sit down and take in the information. That's not going to work out good. That is not going to work out in your favor. You are going to be dazed and confused. The way they come in now, you might have could have got away with it 10, 15 years ago. Now, today, no, bro, they're gonna mess with your emotions hard. You thinking about taking that trip somewhere? They're like, oh no, that place is crazy. They're gonna have you stressed. So I'm not saying don't watch the news, don't watch TV, but what I am saying is know how to watch them. It's not for free if you just sit there and you're taking information in. You need to do your own reflection a little bit. I won't even say reflection. You just need to do your own process. Let it hit some gears and bounce around a little bit in your own head. But that also entails you're probably not going to be able to take in. You're not going to be able to do that with as much stuff as you just let freely flow over your head. Even what I'm talking about right here, I'm kind of saying you need to do something. You can't just take information in and not process it, not think about it, not hit it from this side, hit it from that side. Look up. Like sometimes they come with some crazy stuff. The phrase I use is like, I'm gonna lift the skirt on that thing. Like, dude, like you talking about something crazy right now. We need to lift this dude's skirt. You know what I mean? Because he's obviously talking something really wild right now. That happened a lot the last couple of years with what was going on. And now a lot of skirts are getting lifted. Should have been from day one. I don't know how people didn't see all that stuff going on. Yes. If it matters to you. If it matters to you, if the subject matters to you, do your research. If you don't, if there's certain things, they probably don't matter to your life. And that's another thing you need to be aware of too. Like, why are they pushing this on me? This doesn't affect me not one bit. Not one bit. So you got to think about that as well too. Sometimes it's like, okay, they're pushing this on me. I don't need it. You could go in a circle and be like, oh, okay, well, why would they push this? Why would they? That's just a waste of time. Most of the time for most people. But certain things you definitely need to take a look at. They're talking about, I feel like right now a lot of health issues need to be looked at critically. Even some of the experts, are rethinking how they look at stuff. So, I think it's just one of those times in history where we gotta change up how we do things. So it's not a bad thing. It's just a different thing. And I think the only people who are going to resist it or complain about it are people that don't want to burn a few more calories by thinking about these things. Obviously, nobody's perfect. Nobody's going to know everything they need to know. We're all going to have some blind spots, so to speak. But I feel like it's a very good time in history to, if you're around other like-minded people who can critically think about certain things. It only takes a few of you, and you you have mapped out a lot of what's going on, of what's important for you in your circle. So that's another thing too. I think people need to stay around like-minded people. I feel like if you're around people who think you talk about critical thinking or blah blah or doing things a certain way, there's going to be people who laugh at it or think it's foo-foo or whatever is not important at all. You might want to distance yourself from that energy, because that is not productive. That's not going to work out in anybody's favor. You can't be naive about the media you consume today. It's actually, if you were naive about all the media that you consume, I believe they are making people dumber, because they're taking away that critical thing that we all have, which is a deciding process in critical thinking. Once they take that away, you're done. You are at whim to whatever they say. And if you think about it now, After everything that's been going on, do you really want to be at the whim of the media and some of these politicians? Nah. You at least want to have your own thoughts and make your own moves. And you're not always going to be right. But that would suck to just keep getting, for lack of a better term, fucked over, and it wasn't even your fault. You didn't even make a decision. You going off of what you thought they was telling you the truth. You was a fool. So that's my take on that. Like I said, I think going back to the subject, I think for travel, if you want to get out and travel, there's a lot of benefits to travel. You can expand your mind, see new cultures, meet new people, forge new relationships, save money a lot of times, find the love of your life, have a great time. All of these things, or maybe a few of them, all of these things you might find out with travel. Now, the downside of travel, I think everybody has this downside. There will be moments where you're lonely. You're out of your element. You might feel confused. But I think the more you travel and the more you connect with other people who travel, the less that's minimized. Also, we talked about it, there's some dangers out there you need to be aware of. Like, you're going to have to learn new places, all of that. But just know that, if you're coming from the inner city of any U.S. city, you already, I'm not saying you're knowledgeable about every dangerous place in the world, but you're up a little bit. You're kind of already halfway there. You might never get 100% if you go into some other countries and try to know what's going on there. That might never be the case. But at least you have a level of spidey senses that tells you something. And that's worth something. I think that holds up in a lot of places. So yeah, we gotta continue to push on, stay knowledgeable, stay informed, stay abreast on what's going on. The world is changing. The world is changing faster than it ever did before. And some things are changing for the better. A few things are changing for the worse in certain places. And it's the world is always shifting. The weather's always changing. Certain places are getting better, then getting worse, and then getting better again. So yeah, that's this travel game, and that's what we got in our world and to look forward to in 2023. But yeah, I don't see too many other questions in the chat. I'm trying to look on both sides. But either way, that's all I wanted to get at tonight. And I think I got a video coming out. I was working on it today. I'm going to get one out this week. By the end of this week, it'll be out. I'm going to push it out regardless. Whether it's finished or not, it's going to be coming out. So look forward to that. I'll probably drop a few more shorts. Might do another mobile live from a beach. The beach mobile lives are easy, so I might do that depending on what happens. But yeah, that's pretty much it, y'all. So if you're traveling out there, stay safe, stay informed, use that as much as you can. If you do run into trouble, trying to minimize it, distance yourself from the situation, take a step back, take a breather, get your mind right, and continue on, continue on enjoying your life. Do what you got to do. All right. Appreciate y'all, and have a good night.